Hello and welcome to UnCut Juels. I'm Kristin Juel. This is Sparkles. We are very excited that you're here. We're going to have a nice chat about art, cover art, one of our favorite topics. How do things translate to consumption? How do we get it in front of people? It always needs a piece of art. So we're going to have a conversation with Ruby Velle and Mila, who's another artist that she's been working with. So we're really excited about that. But first, I wanted to call attention to a couple things. Number one, does anybody know if we have a president? Does is anybody out there? Can somebody let me know? I'm just curious. Do we have a leader? Is that are we, it's me, right? We chose me. Is that right? I think it was right in. I don't know, could be wrong. But if we did, it's a big honor and I accept it willingly. And yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready if you guys want that. I presume you don't, but if you do, I'm here for you. Yeah, and then second of all, this week, because next week is Thanksgiving. This week, we have two releases coming up, if you wouldn't mind taking a quick look. We've got Jessica Childress with Walk With Me, the Flotilla version, remixed by Topher Moore. So very excited to be releasing that, and that is actually going to be kicking off our run for the Princess of the Row movie, which releases on Thanksgiving next week. And her songs are in that movie. In fact, she wrote several of them for that movie and the trailer. So please check it out. And if you have a chance, we would love it if you would pre-order or pre-save or whatever you need to do for the movie. But there's lots of information you can find on Juel Concepts and UnCut Juels and Jessica Childress's page. And if you go straight and you just put in the words Princess of the Row, there's heaps of information there. So we're really proud of this. It's won a bunch of awards at the film festivals. And so we're excited for it to finally get its release next week. So in the meantime, try and pre-save Jessica's single for us. It's called Walk With Me, Flotilla version. And hopefully you've already heard her EP, which has the original version on it. And second of all, we have another release for CJ Ray, who is our Christian faith-based rock artist out of Las Vegas, Henderson, Nevada. And he's releasing his next single called Today, and it's a banger. It's a banger. And we just finished producing his music video for it, which is just going to be absolutely gorgeous. And shout out to all the people who helped with that, including Coco and M and Jordan and Jess, and I mean, everybody was involved in that one. And we've got Nick Wendell, who you probably remember. He came on and helped talk about Death Valley too. So we've got another music video coming out shortly for that too. Maybe closer to the end of the year, possibly the beginning of the year. And then, yeah, next week we've got Chris Pierce with us, and I'm really excited about it. Chris, I've been a big fan of his since, probably 2008 or 9, I think. I was seeing him live in Los Angeles, and I was just obsessed with his gravelly, smoky vocals, and just so good, so talented. So I'm really excited to have him come and join us, and we'll be talking about his new release and all the things that he's been up to since all of things have been going. So I am excited. Oh, and also we're going to have a lyric video for Ruby Velle and the Soulphonics single Lost Lady Yusa coming out soon too. So keep your eye out for that. We're really busy here. Can you tell? Anyway, so I'm going to ask for Ruby Velle to come and join me. Hopefully you guys are familiar with our girl Ruby. She's from the Soulphonics, and she's in Atlanta, Georgia, holding it down.
Oh,
welcome back.
Hi.
Welcome back. We're excited to have you.
Thank you for doing this. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, to hold space, to be in this moment where maybe we don't know what is ahead of us as a country, but we do know what works. And one of those things that works is a combination when art meets music. And absolutely. I'm just so blessed that we get to discuss this today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks again for doing this. So I'm so excited to have this conversation because it feels a bit like a trip down memory lane for me and our relationship, which, as you know, is pretty much, everything for what it represents to me in my world, to get to actually work with an artist that I was such a fan of. I mean, I know I've said this so many times, but huge fan. So I'm excited to take this journey with you. So first of all, are you doing okay? Everybody, you're good? Okay?
Yes, we're doing great.
Good? Okay,
I'm just thinking, I'm looking back on thinking about how lucky I am that these paths aligned in the way that they did. So I'm just very fortunate to be at this place where we can have this discussion of, yes, music matters. Yes, lyrics matter. Art matters. Let's put it all together and see where we can get.
Absolutely.
I'm also looking forward to having some of the tougher conversations of like, what happens when you don't know and you can't come up with an idea and your management is like, you need this idea to happen in the world.
Sorry. So we're like, pull out the app and let's make a cover art.
Yeah. So we can pull up and have some real conversations as well.
I know. We've had come up with some. It's happened. It happens with everybody. It's sometimes things just sneak right up on you. So okay, so we know you're from Canada, that you were raised in Gainesville, that you're of Indian descent, and that you currently live in Atlanta, representing Georgia with a massive heart. But I'm kind of curious, at what point? When did you start to realize like art was your thing, like that cover art or album art was really interesting to you?
Well, you're going to love this answer, but it's basically through failure. I learned a lot of lessons through just basic contrast and bumping right into things that aren't for me. So I thought early on in my career, I always knew that I wanted to be in music, but that way wasn't really made apparent to me. So I went into forensic science my first couple of years of college, and I had never gotten bad grades in my life. As an East Indian, that's just not a thing usually, but my brain just didn't work in those ways at that time. And I think in a lot of ways, it was due to some maybe ADHD tendencies that I had back then that I didn't really even know that I was dealing with. But for whatever reason, not my bag. And so I literally opened up the course catalog and I said, what else? I've got some time left in college. What else can I do that can support maybe my eventual move into something musical related? So in my mind, it was advertising. And so I chose to study advertising. And then that led to learning about the creative arts and commercial arts. And then that led to me leaving Florida and moving my entire band up here to Atlanta to go to a school called the Creative Circus. And that's where it kind of unfolded for me. That is why I say I am made in Atlanta, because I really, truly wasn't creative minded before I moved to this place 15 years ago. So, and oddly enough, we have a perfect tie-in to Mila, who will join us, because at Creative Circus, I met not only my now husband, but a friend of mine, good friend, family friend, I would say at this point. And his name is Will, and Will married Mila. And we were at their beautiful designer wedding in out of state New York, or, a little bit north of the city. And it was just picturesque and gorgeous, and everything was perfectly done. And Mila and Will.
So your wedding.
Thank you. They're a very inspiring couple with the intention that they put behind their art, and that meeting of art and love was just mind-blowing.
Well, that's how I feel about you and Alex.
On many of these relationships for me, and also trained me as a designer, not technically, but to think about concepts and fully matching the visceral feelings of music with the art. No, that makes sense. I was saying that's how I feel about you and Alex. Like, it's your husband and you. It's just so great to see you guys intertwine in the art realm too, and obviously musically too. But really, the graphic design piece has just been so. I don't know. I remember when you guys were doing your art shows and stuff. It's just nice. It's inspiring. So okay, let's get to it, because I kind of want to share some of the early work. So obviously, when the band started and everything was going on, as is usual, it's just like, oh, who can do artwork, right? So is that what happened? That you were like, I got this? Yeah, I got this. It was like, I got this. And I knew at that time it would be something that would save us a lot of money. I didn't know quite how much money.
Much money, yeah.
As a band.
And time. But yeah, that's your time too. But yeah. So I don't know if this is the first release that you guys did on vinyl. I think it might be. So obviously I started buying your music. I think it was either early 2010 or 2009. I can't remember which year. I always get them confused, but I know it was like April. I went to Fat Beats and they were like, got to check out this girl from Atlanta. And I was like, cool. And I bought it. And this is the thing I bought. So this was the 7-inch. Is this the first one?
This was the very first thing I ever designed. My very first piece of wax designed as well. So my first time learning about proofing the inside label and understanding what it means to have bleeds and trims, designing logos for a record label that didn't have a logo, and putting my name last on it. Is what I did.
That's even funnier. And that we learned.
Early lessons you learn.
Yeah.
But I hand drew the front of that, and it was the first thing that went out for us, and it is Feet on the Ground, which we play to this day.
I love this song. I know that this isn't it's definitely not a reflection of your work now, but I absolutely love that somebody handed me this, and that started me on my journey to you. So like, for what it's worth, I'm like, it's
more than service purpose then in my life.
Yeah. I'm gonna grab it from running out the door. Okay, so and then from there, how much what happened after that? Like, were you still just like, is it Heartlight that's next, or?
Yeah, I think it was Heartlight. Yep, it was Heartlight, that one. And you can see I was getting a little bit farther in my technical understanding and typography and white space, and I really wanted to do something that was like Motown but not, and really inspired by some of the Blue Note albums as well. Even though this is a totally different color palette, it's still very much like even Norman Rockwell and like those kind of like nostalgic, eclectic type of art. This was just a hodgepodge of feelings for Heartlight. I had so many creative juices flowing for this one. Those were just Photoshop brushes, and I had learned in the early days how to manipulate those.
I love it.
I think the orb was an ornament, and we shot the photo with me holding the ornament. It was a Christmas ornament. Yeah, and my stylist. My stylist name was Christy, actually. I worked on that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And this was released as a holiday single. This was the one that got on Starbucks, right?
Yeah, it was pick of the week, and in around that time of year. Yeah, so we were really fortunate, and I think the like 500,000 downloads like right away on that one. It was so special. It was so
great. Such a good song. I have that on my playlist still. I don't think it's ever left any of my playlists. Like, it's a great running song. It's a great walking song. It's a great upbeat song. You don't feel good about yourself, you listen to that song. Guys, listen to this song, Heartlight. It's amazing. It's genuinely like,
thank you. And actually, since I mentioned the Creative Circus and Will, I wrote it about people like Will and people that I had met at the Creative Circus that were brightening my perspective and opening my eyes to what was possible. Don't be afraid to like write about those experiences that might be good for you. We'll listen to this album a little bit later.
I know, we'll get there. We're getting a different story. But so that leads to so 2010 I find out about you, and you're releasing some music, and then there was another one that you released which we have digitally, that's the cover art for the Bill Withers cover song.
Can we pretend? I forgot about that.
Yeah, Can We Pretend? I think we have that. Yeah. That was like right when I was coming on. I remember seeing that, and I was like, "Oh, that's so interesting." That was an evolution as well. Do you want to tell us about that one?
Yeah. Again, I think I was trying to evolve Heartlight. I was like, "What is the next thing that could come after something like that?" And it kept with the white space and that kind of font and those typefaces in those early days. I was really attracted to like that thin serif, and then you'll see later with the posters, I blow it out to old James Brown, like old school 60s, 70s blocky typography. So this was like really in the transition mode here. Yeah. And then like just some more Photoshop work and melding of different photos together.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Who were in the photos?
I don't know. It was just something
abstract.
Just abstract that I saw, and I had the paint splotches as well, and it's just a matter of like molding them together. But yeah, I was really happy with how this one turned out. And then I also designed the logo for the record label at that time too. So that was 2 logos I did for those record labels.
Amazing. Good for you. Man.
Yeah, it
was logos. So, okay, now walk us through how we got to...
Dun, 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 dun. We're both holding it up. because there's some people that would murder us right now for holding these up. I'm so sorry.
We're like the only people in the world that have them. No, there's like 500 other people who have them, I'm sure, somewhere.
So this was a true collaboration. Bruce Clem, the photographer, myself, Spencer Garn, all went down, took MARTA, and we went to the GSU MARTA station, ATL, and we did it Renegade. And Bruce Clem was actually a wakeboard photographer, so he actually knew how to get the quick action shots. So I put on these super high heels, and I picked up this blue suitcase, and I just started walking down. Yep, there, walking down as fast as I could, and he would get these Renegade images, because you're not supposed to film in MARTA. You're supposed to have passes. It's like a whole thing. You've got to have.
Bad, Ruby, bad.
I know, I did an illegal thing.
Don't tell your mom. Mom, block your ears.
I did it for the art. And I remember thinking in my head when I was taking those photos, like, this is going to be something. I don't know what, but this is going to be something. And it feels really good. So I'm just going to go with this. And then eventually we got the photos back, and they would not have even looked the way that photo looks now if it wasn't for my husband, Alex Morgan. He did hours and hours of Photoshop editing. And to this day, I can't wait for the reprint, because this is dark and that is light, and we got to fix that. And like, we can just be such perfectionists.
Look at that beautiful face.
Thank you.
So beautiful.
Thank you. I was probably 23, 24 maybe then in that photo. But I borrowed the jacket. I did my own makeup. Like, we did it DIY. So A, don't be afraid to do it all yourself and get good key people to help you. And then B, just put it out. It doesn't matter if it's really amazing or not. Just put it out. Don't be like me. I've sat on a lot of art for a long time with music, and I believe that there should be this intentional connection there, but I have waited too long in a lot of cases. So I would just, for all those others out there that are working through this.
Oh, that's great. That's great advice. That's really good. You kind of got to our ending, but that's cool. Just put it out.
This is tried and true ATL, and I'm so, so proud. And this one as well, which we'll get to in a minute, is also true ATL because of Methane Studios.
I know. Wait. So, okay, listen, can we just pause for a second? So the advice that you would give someone is just go for it, basically, right? Just put it out.
Just put it out. Just put it out. I mean, have your peer of people that will proof it. Don't proof it yourself. Don't proof it yourself. You can't look at it 10 million times and then
close to it.
One mistake. So have a couple, your teeny circle, have them review it, but don't hold yourself back from putting out your music because you feel like the art isn't keeping up. Just give it your best shot and get it out. Because chances
I always feel like,
and when people listen, they further connect with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always feel like I feel like you have to like maybe simplify it if it's getting to that point. You know what I mean? Like just, okay, obviously if it's not working, something's not working, just like strip it back, you know, which I think is where we're going to go next when we start talking about your solo stuff. But let's keep on track with the Soulphonics. So obviously that album came out in 2012. And then it was a period of time where, you know, we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. We were in the studio a lot, trying to sort it all out. And then finally started thinking about doing some more releases and building towards the album, which is behind you. Along the way, we did have it. Well, actually, hold on. We're gonna go to some singles first. There was a, I don't even remember how it happened, but there was an artist that we saw online. And we were like, oh, we really dig this. And you were like, let's use this so the first single was going to be Broken Woman, right? We knew that was coming out. And then the first single, Art, you did not do all of it.
I did not do.
So this was the first time, as far as I can tell, that we actually had somebody else touching the brand.
Is that true?
It kind of is, because that was Protsky. So we went to this guy that we found on Instagram and had him do this beautiful piece of art. And then you did this.
I did the type and I did the back layout.
The package. And then
I have to say it was a beautiful collab. First colored vinyl too. First colored vinyl.
First colored vinyl. Mm-hmm.
I love the way that orange and magenta sing together. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And then we did a t-shirt.
T-shirts! Which I remember. Yeah, it's like it went everywhere. But it is kind of funny to think that was like just this, well, interesting. Yeah, let's try something new. But there were pieces, there were elements of it that really did, it still works, like in all of the things that we're doing. It's definitely indicating there was a change happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the ability to let go and allow others to be involved in what you do, that was a big lesson as well. So I was so pleased at that point. And you had a lot of creative input at that point as well. Pretty much from State of All Things forward. Yeah. You and I have been creative collaborators. So it's been such a blessing to have somebody else that cares about proofing.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Honestly, the vinyl, vinyl is such a big deal to me to begin with, but like even to be able to translate it into posters and the t-shirt, the merch and all that stuff is just so important. And what was great was I don't actually think we knew what we were doing exactly with the album yet. And so this album cover, Broken Woman, was our bridge to figuring out what we were doing. We did know that there were elements of the colors that we had a feeling were going to be in there. But other than that, we were kind of like just trying to like figure it all out. And so you can really tell, like we did the jumping off point while we were still working on the album cover art. And then in the middle of it, we still had to do Call Out My Name.
Yep.
The next single, which you did all of this.
Yes.
So we are back to the Ruby Velle look.
Thank you. That is based off a scene that I got to see because of my amazing friend who was my driver when I was a backup singer on Warped Tour. And he drove us up in our bandwagon to the top of some place in Ventura Beach. It was like a cliff. And it was 5 a.m. in the morning, and I opened the bandwagon door, and that's all I saw was just this, as far as I could see, coastline and stone to my left and to my right, mountains, and nothing else. And it was just so breathtaking that I just never got it out of my mind, ever. So thank you, Tim Pooter. You're the best.
Yeah, he's great. And then we have another vinyl that's colored.
Call Out My Name.
Stunning. And Love Less Blind on the B side.
Yes.
And what's cool about that was we hadn't released it.
Yes, and those are two of my favorite songs by Ruby Velle and the Soulphonics.
So good. Really, really good.
I just really good myself in the third person, but it's kind of a week for that. So
You did. So okay, now we get to now we're talking album again. And that was a big deal. That was a very big deal. So tell us the story about that.
Well, I knew back when I was at the circus and I was a suffering designer, I really was not getting my legs under me as far as design knowledge or the basics or anything, but I'd come from very different worlds before that. So I went to the circus, and one of my teachers, professors of illustration, I was in his class all year, and I said to him, and he obviously knew about the band because I was putting the band back together at those days. And I said, one day you're going to design an album cover for my band. And he was like, no, I won't. I was like, oh, crap. And then a decade passed and definitely happened. And Methane Studios, he was, working as a professor and also owning Methane Studios. And put this together for us. And if anybody knows anything about Methane, they do posters for some of the best artists in the world. And it's such an honor that they would take the time to do this collaboration with us. And it was a true collaboration. They came up with sketches. We went back and forth on about 16 different ideas. And we netted here. And they just put so much into it based off of what was in the songs and the imagery. And it was this perfect melding. So I think the first thing I should have said when we got on this call is just listen to the damn music.
Right.
Listen to the damn music, let it seep in, sleep on it, shower on it, and then take your best stab at the sketches. And I know that's what Methane does, along with a bunch of other magic that they do every day. But they work with also really big brands as well. So the fact that 10 years down the road, they were willing, and they loved it, and they called us to get all these copies sent to the studio. And the fact that I got to contribute the liner notes and the backside, and
well, let's look at that.
You know,
backside, gorgeous. And look at she incorporated the links, which were also one of the pieces that were in.
I'm gonna let you know, I am still learning. So if you flip this over and you look at the back, let the world notice the biggest barcode that has ever existed on the back.
That's not even fair. It is what it is. I mean,
that's what it is, you know, but you just learn. You learn sometimes, and it takes that, you know. But that's always why you get the reprint. So if you have something that you made a mistake on, then you better sell out your record so you can reprint it.
And then just say, I mean, I'm just going to keep opening this up, because this thing might be, it's literally a work of art. Like that, whenever people come at me, I'm like, take that. That is like, it's just, doesn't that just, I mean, I know obviously I have a ring light.
Anybody that knows us, they know that we're indie AF and we are very DIY. So for us, this was our own gold record, and I will never regret making my own gold record.
I think it's stunning. I love it. I absolutely love it. So, I mean, and then we made it into t-shirts too, which I have worn before on many shows, like whenever I can. I think it's actually my favorite t-shirt. Don't tell Hamish. Because I do have some pretty cool shirts I cut for him too. I love those too. But yeah, the colors on this are just, they're so my vibe. It's amazing. So everything about it.
Yeah, and shout out to the collaborators, all the guys on that album. I mean, everybody threw down and at some point had something to say about the artwork or the poster. And I remember Zach was so excited when we printed it on the drum head for the Smithsonian gig. That was so cool. So it was really cool that everybody embraced the art and where we were going. And you notice this underlying branding of big chunky type, black and yellow, really standard, classic, striking things. That's kind of the realm of the Soulphonics, at least in my mind, since the nation.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think we've netted out in exactly where we wanted to be, which is just a classic sound, and everything about it's just progressively classic. You know what I mean? But it really does nod very nicely to everything that's come before it, but picks it up in the future, you know, to keep it going.
Thank
so
you.
I love it. But so obviously, like with all that thought and all that work, and I mean, we're talking now 15 years. You know, in 2016, we started thinking about how to do this for you. Just Ruby Velle, not Ruby Velle and the Soulphonics. It had never been done before. You hadn't even done things on your own. I think that previous year was the first time.
Just thinking about it.
I know. But so we had the opportunity to say, all right, what do we want to do? So we go in the studio, you start doing all your great music, and you're exploring all these sounds. And then we have you working with Sugaroo, which is full disclosure. I work with Sugaroo Records, which is a label off of Sugaroo Sync. And we had Ruby come in and start, you know, doing her magic with other producers and see what it looked like. And, you know, we weren't sure where it was going to go, but it wound up being such a good experience for you. You had such a good time. I mean, by this point you had been in the studio with Anderson .Paak. You'd done the vocals for Petty on Oxnard. You had done your own stuff, like you know, you'd started working with other people just to feel it out. But then you get into the studio with these guys, and they're just like, they're so in vibe. They have like a vibe going on with you. And it was like 1, 2, 3 songs in a row that, you know, we were like, great. And then all of a sudden it was like, great. And then it was like, great. And they're getting syncs. And they were like right away. And we did not have the luxury of thinking about, okay, what does the Ruby Velle brand look like? Yeah, we had like, I think we had like a couple weeks.
It was very virtual runway.
Right. It was a challenge. We got through it. And that was where, you know, your advice to other people, I think it was hard, but I remember sitting in this exact same spot, having that same conversation with you where I was like, Fighter's going out. We need to do something. Is going out. We need to do something.
I was at dinner with my sister.
You were at dinner with your sister. Yeah. Hamish had told me about an app called Fonto. And I was like, I'm putting it together on Fonto. And I'm like, making it, I don't know. And you're like, I think,
I love that.
Yeah. And it was like, we're just going to have to do it. And that was our indoctrination by fire, right? So you can't can't make it up, and you can't take it back. I mean, you know, whatever, went out. It's a huge song for you.
I'm very happy and proud of how they turned out, to be honest, because they're 3 in a series and they're 3 bold anthems from me. And I hadn't really put my face on anything since the It's About Time album, because I'm just not always into that. But these ones felt like, okay,
yeah,
I know my face has a connection with what I'm actually saying in this song.
It does. Yeah,
truth saying.
Do you mind if we show, or do you not? Do you want us to just
go for it. Yeah, okay. It's all over Spotify. It's out in the world. You gotta let it go.
So we got Fighter, we got Nana Please, and we got Go Get It. And basically, Johannes, if you have them, maybe we could put them up real quick, just little pieces so we could show them. But basically, one thing that we did use was, I believe we kept the red. Like there was like a red thing that went throughout.
Yeah, there was red, and we kept the type for the series. And I often do that. I think thinking in threes is another thing that people don't talk about enough, but think in threes.
Yeah, there's the yellow. So
in this world of singles, you know, there's no reason why another one can't be a set of 3 some pieces of art.
Right. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, so we basically like took your own advice. It wasn't easy. We will admit, like, no one wants to be like, I have to make a decision in a minute while I'm at dinner with my family, you know, and so it was suboptimal, but we did it. And then we decided we're not going to do that again. We're going to take this on, think through what we can do. We did the photo session with Elaine Torres. We pulled through some ideas of what we wanted your aesthetic to look like. And from there, we got to say, all right, well, who's going to be a partner? And here we met. We brought in Mila. So why don't we have Mila? Hey.
Mila.
Hi.
Hi. It's good to see you.
I'm so glad to be here with you guys. I've been really enjoying listening to all these stories, and now I feel like, just knowing that, you know, you did a lot of the art kind of just now I realize what kind of responsibility I had to, you know, make stuff for your music. So I'm just like, wow.
I was so happy to collaborate with you. It was a blessing. I mean,
and we're not done yet.
Yeah. There's a lot happening.
We got a lot to do. This is just a pause right now for us to reflect on things, but there's still much work to do. But yeah, thank you for coming on UnCut. We're really UnCut Juels. We're so excited. Obviously, I'm curious, if you don't mind, where are you? We're not even sure where you are in the world, just so we know. And how are you?
Yeah, I am good. I am sort of at home most of the time, but I am currently in Nashville, Tennessee. Up until we moved here in May, but I was based in New York for about 15 years before that. So kind of a big change in the middle of all this craziness happening. So
2020, we're saying it's 2020. That's what it is.
I know. I'm really happy for all of the Northerners who are transplanting down south, because they are good voting citizens.
We try.
And also, I love that you're closer to me.
Yeah, very, very true. We are just a drive away, which is.
Do you enjoy Nashville so far? Are you? I know it's hard to probably see it at the moment, but.
Yeah, it's been kind of a tough time to move in here, but I'm excited about all the music, and really looking forward to kind of immersing myself into that next year. But so far, we haven't really been able to enjoy that in a way that we feel safe. So, but you know, there's time.
Yeah,
there will be. So I'd love to have this a little quick round robin between you guys about what was the first album that you remember, album cover you remember?
Oh gosh. Well, you know, it's kind of weird because, you know, back in the day, I am from Bulgaria, so I spent most of my kind of teenage years there, and it's kind of funny because all the music we got was just sort of people taking and kind of making copies and then printing out copies of the covers and kind of DIYing things because they just wasn't accessible and I couldn't even buy it.
Right.
you know, God forbid you even have like records, actual records. Mostly it was like CDs. And so it was just kind of a weird time. I guess I kind of remember a lot of some of the Metallica album covers. Not that I was listening to that so much, but for some reason it just kind of stuck with me and like just as like beautiful pieces, and some of them like kind of really serious. But I don't know, for some reason these are some of the things that I remember, just given that we weren't exposed to as much, I feel like, as maybe people in, you know, Western Europe or here even had. So it's a little limited.
Metallica. Interesting. Very interesting. What about you, Ruby? What's your first album cover that you remember?
The first album cover, I think that it's kind of hard because I encountered a lot of them at the same time. So I can't really remember, but it might be a tie between, is it Dangerous, Michael Jackson? The carnival scene. It's like a roller coaster, and there's like it's like almost a collage.
That's pretty. That's like later in his career.
It was really intense. And then the other one I remember is George Benson's Greatest Hits, and it was because they managed to write his name in like looked like dishwashing liquid or soap. And I thought that was so cool. So even back then, Mila, I was jazzed on the type design and didn't even know.
Yeah. I mean, I was definitely kind of, you know, I think even when we first talked about the project and I was like, oh my God, I don't know, like, how am I even going to do this? Like, I thought it would be sort of a design with your face, and maybe I was doing just a little part to kind of go with it, which I was like, okay, cool, I can definitely do that. But then you're like, no, my face won't be on it. And I was like, oh my God, so I'm doing the whole thing. So it was definitely like, I have to say, like a challenge.
Yeah, it's definitely, it was an incorporation. So, okay, let's go into that.
Kristin? What's the first album?
I would say probably the one that, I mean, it's, you know, it's so whatever, it is what it is. But I think the one that I was obsessed with was Barbara Streisand's Wet album, which I still have. And it's weird because she had a dog on the cover. It's like a poodle. No, sorry. Wet was the one she was in the pool. That was the one. Not a pool. She was in like, her hair was all wet. It was Songbird. It's called Songbird. She's got a beret on that's like red and black checkered beret. Stunning face. She's always flawless, like flawless on these covers. And then she had her little dog, a little poodle, like a white poodle, which I'm pretty sure might be some of the ones that she's been cloning. I'm not sure, but I was obsessed with this cover art because I just loved her. I loved her so much. It was like, as a, you know, just when you're a woman looking at another woman, I was a young, obviously probably 7, or it was before Grease, because Grease was my first album. So it must've been my mom's album. And I just was like, this is amazing. I was in love with her. So it was iconic.
That's a great question that I'm going to write down, is like, what album art made you understand womanhood, or like, was the picture of womanhood to you?
Yeah, she was it. She was the, pretty much everything about Barbara Streisand was like the starting point of, because she was so feminine, you know what I mean? And so strong. And like you, she wrote these powerful power ballads and power songs. And I don't know, that was the thing that I remember. But I mean, obviously there's so many album covers, and I will talk about our favorites later. That one is the thing that you remember you studying and like looking at it and just being like, oh, this is so interesting. This is a thing. This is a moment that she wanted to have in front of everybody. Like, you know, like, I don't know, it's just remarkable.
I feel very similar about the Minnie Riperton album cover with the lion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. I just stared and stared and stared at that picture.
So many. And I mean, I think it's funny. This is a bit of a tangent, but I do feel like one of the things that generations don't get, although they're starting to appreciate it now, is the tactile experience of holding cover art and holding the liner art and reading the liner notes and like learning who did these things that you love so much. And, you know, they were my friends. I used to take pictures of like Rod Stewart albums, David Bowie albums, and my guitar and all this stuff because photograph class, like photography class, I was like, fuck, I'll take my whatever. Now like, what would you take a picture? Like, I don't know. They were my friends. Like these albums were genuinely my friends. So I am glad that people are starting to buy vinyl again, because I do feel like there's nothing better than the ownership of music and that experience that you can have. So, so I know, Mila, we're doing digital, but I loved that vinyl that you did. I was like, yeah, let's work our way to that. That's a good one.
We got a lot of votes for that, Mila. So all of you out there, the vinyl for Straight Out the Mud does not exist. It only came out digitally. So thanks to you and your input, that might be changing soon.
Yeah.
There's just something we kind of like that makes it real once you put it on where it belongs, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's definitely something I want.
That's beautiful. Thank you for saying that. I think that's how the most authentic things kind of hit or resonate. So I really appreciate that. That is pure love.
Yeah, me too. All right, so let's get right into it. So obviously, let's go through the imagery. So we've got the very first single we just released for you, and this was the first time you guys actually. I know you did a bunch of concepts for us, and we'll show the concepts, but this is the first actual release. It is for the single we just did, Straight Out the Mud. So yeah, pull that up. So let's talk about this one, because it looks simple, but we know it's not.
No, it was not.
Yes, tell us all.
Talk about it.
It was. I mean, I have to say we went back and forth a little bit to figure out the right look for it, and I appreciate that, because I felt like I needed to go through that journey to really understand kind of where the music was coming from and what it meant. Because I think it's always hard, like as a listener, I have my own interpretation of things and my own inspiration based on my experiences. But, obviously working with you, and you're extremely talented, not just music, but visual and design and all these things, like taking your ideas and kind of trying to collaborate and make something together. That was, for me, just like an eye-opening experience. So I truly enjoyed it. There was, this piece is actually made out of actual dirt that I went and kind of illegally got from the park. I don't think I was supposed to do that, but I had to find dirt. So I kind of had this little plastic bag, and I went with a little spoon, got some dirt, brought it home. And like I just had like a white piece of board, and I started just threw the dirt on it, and I started like with a brush kind of moving it around and trying to make the lettering out of it. I mean, I had a sketch and kind of a general idea of what I wanted to make, but it was just, actually working with the material. That's not, it doesn't work like when you do it on a computer. It's not paint. It's just like, I mean, it was so tactile, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before, but I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens. And like the first version of this that was with the dirt that I made came out so clean that you couldn't tell it was dirt. So I was like, okay, this is not like, I showed it to a few people too, and they're like, that's cool, but it just looks like it was, drawn or something. So I had to go back and try and mess it up and try and make it look rough, which is very hard for me because I like things that are neat and clean and very organized. So for me, that was like, oh my God, I just want to put it together and make it clean and neat. But
wow, I did not. I think you might have mentioned that it came from actual dirt, but the symbology there is just so much. My head wants to explode with joy. It just so cool that, like, I'm an earth sign as well, like through and through. So for me and my new chapter, like, it couldn't be more visceral. I feel it's so connected.
That's amazing. I didn't actually know that. I knew you did a couple versions of it. I didn't know that it looked to not dirt-like. Too fresh.
Yeah, it was a little bit like too clean lined, and I think the version definitely kind of was the right look and feel, but I think I had to go through the material and learn how to use it before I got to the right place. But yeah, it was just like way too clean. I was like, no, why is this so perfect?
Same thing with my journey as a solo artist. I had to go through a lot of understandings and learnings to get to even writing my own songs in one day. I never thought that I could do that. I mean, thank you, Kristin, for pushing me to do it.
Yeah, literally. I know, you weren't thanking me along the way. I'll just say that.
I hate you. Moving past that fear, it's like moving past that fear to make something that's bigger than yourself. I really think that's what it is. And I just love that we find that with art and with music.
Yeah, for sure. Well, okay, so now obviously we spent a lot of time on Straight Out the Mud, but there are several other, so you did a suite for us. And there's a lot. So we're not going to go through them all because and for what it's worth, a lot of these are also stuff that we're doing for Sugaroo. At some point we'll be releasing them when we can. But the other one that I know we can release is called Ghost Sound. And I believe you did cover art for that too.
Yeah.
That was also with Rune, who did Straight Out the Mud with you. And so this is where we're netting out with for this one, although it hasn't been released yet, but we're going to give a sneak peek so you could see the direction we're heading. And we remain, you never know, some of them might change, but this is pretty much where we're at, right? I think this is very close.
Yeah.
Super close. We just have to get your name on there somewhere.
Share your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, this one was obviously very, very different. I feel like each one of the covers that I worked on was very different and kind of challenging in its own way. But this one for me was kind of some of the first times that I've tried to do a digital illustration. Like I've, obviously I'm a designer and art director, so I collaborate with a lot of illustrators and designers, but I've never really myself kind of went into and actually started painting digitally, which was kind of a new experience for me, and just trying to learn the tools. And it's not like painting on paper, so everything looks very different and behaves differently.
But it looks like you painted on a canvas.
Yeah, which was, again, it's kind of that learning process. And this is a piece that I kind of had an idea about the lettering, but not so much the rest of it. I just knew what kind of mood I wanted to create. But because I didn't know, I've never done this before, I didn't know how it's going to come out. So I just started like trying things out and seeing what I like and what I don't like, and just kind of building on it until I was like, okay, this is coming together. I'm kind of liking where this is going. And then, combining it with the typography really made it kind of come together as one.
Mm-hmm. I remember when you started putting the typography behind the trees.
Yeah.
I was like, that's really cool.
And I can't wait for people to hear the song and connect with it. So that's going to be really cool, because it is a very different, haunting kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And you just knocked it again out of the park.
Out of the park. Oh, yummy beer. Cheers. Okay,
it's so nice when you work with an artist who's just like there for it and can interpret it and has actually listened to it. Thank you, Mila.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I was playing them like on a loop as I was doing stuff, because I was like, I need to listen to this so that I know what I'm doing. And it just, maybe that's how it just came to me, because sometimes I couldn't explain myself why did I think of that, but I think it was kind of subconsciously I knew.
Yeah, it's just there. That's what I was telling Kristin about. It's about time. I just knew it would be something, and it just comes to you. But this one was, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's great. I know, me too. And then, so we've got two more, Stand Up and You Must Be a Fan. Yeah, Stand Up.
Yeah.
So this song is crazy. I love this song. This is going to be a Sugaroo release. And we're so excited. And it looks, talk about how you handled this one. This was...
Yeah, well, this the background is actually a photo from the streets of Brooklyn. I was going around with my camera and kind of trying to get some textures and interesting
Ruby
things
Velle
that I could see.
Brooklyn.
I was like, I know we can use stock photography, but why? Like, I wanted it to be like just
Real.
something that I've made and that's not out there. And so I took a lot of like different textures, different things. So there was a lot of kind of, again, trying and see what was the right kind of texture that will go with the lettering. And obviously this is a very powerful song. So it needed, like, typographically wise, it needed something that really stands out, but also kind of is, you know, there's like this juxtaposition between the hand stand and the up that was like very, you know, sans serif, very uniform, very strong, but there was that tension that I really liked. So
yeah, to me, this is so much to the song being about feminine power coming to the forefront, and you can just see that without even hearing the song and what you've done. So powerful. Mm-hmm. And it makes me inspired to create the video for this song too. I've had all these notions and ideas brewing in my head for this one.
It's exciting. Right. That's exciting. Good. Yeah, and it's such a great song. This one's going to be like another anthem. Just so good. Okay, and then the last one, you must be a fan. Now, Ruby, this is a funny story about how you get that even the song got written, but we'll table that for when it comes out. I know the story. But this yeah,
so great.
It's a good one. Yeah, talk to us about how this came about, the inspiration.
Yeah, I think that was also another one where we kind of went back and forth a little bit. And I know you had some very kind of particular feeling that you wanted to convey. And I think that's when I was, you know, typography is very powerful if you know how to use it. But, you know, there was a lot of just changing one letter, make it look slightly different, and how that changed the whole look and feel of the piece. So there was a lot of me kind of going back and forth of like, well, you know, the letter M doesn't look as strong as some of the others. I want them to feel like almost someone, you know, created a very gestural piece, but like did it really quickly and kind of was, you know, almost made with like a brush, and then there was a splash everywhere. And so sometimes, again, I ran into the thing where I was trying to make things like look too perfect and like, you know, look like someone did it slowly. So I had to like kind of challenge myself and be like, I need to just like get those gestural strokes first, and then I can refine. And I know we kind of went back and forth a little bit, but I remember you specifically wanted it on kind of this tile background, which again, for some reason, just makes me think of, I don't know, New York for some reason. I don't know.
Totally.
Yeah.
Also Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Awesome.
I was like, this is great. So yeah, so this, I mean, this just shows you how like the variety. Yeah, obviously you're going with the sound, and the imagery piece kind of like starts to come out from the sound, really. So that's your process, is like listening to the single or the song or the album or whatever, and then translating it through this and like making it powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, I listened to each song, I don't know how many times, but again, also having these conversations with Ruby, and she's, you know, obviously created the music. So having that point of view as well was extremely helpful. But at the same time, she gave me a lot of freedom, which, you know, sometimes that can be scary for an artist, but I appreciate it. And one of my best clients, I guess, so far.
Oh, thank you. That's always such a joy to hear, both ways. Oh, absolute ditto. It was such a joy to collaborate with you, and I just can't wait for more. You know, I know there's
a lot more to come.
Yeah,
amazing.
We do have some songs. I've been sitting on some songs for sure.
Oh yeah,
upcoming stuff for the projects too.
Oh yeah, so we've got Just Blink at some point too. We got to get out. We'll work on that one next. Okay, so before I let you guys go, because it's almost at the hour mark, which I can't believe, it just feels like it flew by. There's two questions. So one Ruby's already sort of touched on, which is like advice for younger people coming in, or anybody coming in who wants, forget about younger people, anybody who wants to be a graphic artist, doesn't matter how old you're, how young you are, how old you are.
Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. Do you have any advice for people who are trying to get into this and wanting to know more?
To specifically designing,
how to designing cover art and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's you know, just learning how to design anything. Really, I think it's just you know, you still have to come up with a concept. You have to know the craft. I think absolutely it helps if you're into music and understanding that and knowing the music. But I also think it's just it's kind of a problem that you need to solve. And I think for designers, you know, nowadays especially, I almost, you know, feel like you don't necessarily need the education to be able to create art that you love. There's so many resources out there online. And, you know, whenever I work with someone, I'll look for talent. I always look at their work, not where they studied or what they did before. It doesn't really matter because, you know, if you have, you know, put in the work and you make the work, then that should speak for itself. And
yeah.
Good.
So just keep working through it. Keep making it evolving. Yeah, it's great.
Just keep making stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're gonna. So since Ruby, since you answered it already, is that cool if we ask the last question?
Yeah. Go for it. And then I was thinking, maybe since we're running late, then I'll just share all the posters that I designed over the years as we roll out. Wouldn't that be
for sure? Yeah. And you're a little blurry, so I'm not sure if the internet is slow on your end. Just keep that in mind as you're showing things. I don't know, Mila, if you can tell, but it looks a little blurry to me.
Yeah,
so
it's a little blurry to me too.
It might be hard to see it. But I would love to know if you guys wouldn't mind sharing. Usually we ask what's the one song you wish you'd written, but in the spirit of cover art, I was thinking maybe we could talk about what inspires you for cover art. What's like an artist that you feel is doing an incredible job? It could be an artist, it could be an album, a single, whatever you think is great.
Sure. I mean, I kind of had to think about this quite a bit because, you know, again, growing up not surrounded by cover art was, you know, obviously something that I missed on, but I really enjoyed, and that's more like their branding, but the Rolling Stones logo that made it onto a lot of their album covers. I just feel like this is such an iconic design that, you know, has a lot of controversy into creating it, but the fact that it was also made by a student, you know, it's just like a great story behind it. And also
it was a student? I didn't know that.
Yeah, UnCut Juels and covers the truth.
I don't know.
I never knew that either, Mila. That's so cool.
Is good, yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's great. So you're saying the tongue was done by a student?
Yeah, it was a student, I guess in his last year or something, and they
that's crazy.
For some reason they were looking for a student to create some poster or something, and somehow it ended up being this very iconic mark. And obviously there's a lot of controversy about who made it, but from what I was reading about it, it seemed like it was this guy. And it's just like, I don't know, it's such a very simple graphical piece that, you know, people keep referencing back to it today. And, you know, it has that pop art feel, which lately I've been on that, you know, wave of things for some reason. So I don't know, I just felt like it had a good story and it was very simple yet somehow powerful. So
that's a really good one. Really good choice. And I'm sure our artist Hamish Anderson is probably excited to share. He knows, I'm sure, everything about Rolling Stones. So I'll have to find out about that and get more information. Like, answer my question. What about you, Ruby?
Mine would be Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix, Axis Bold as Love.
Ah, I know it's here somewhere.
Like my first, it was as what they call a Canadian-born confused Daisy. When I encountered that album, I understood that my culture had a lot more to teach me. And so I started really digging in to understand what was I really looking at that in that album cover. And it's the many faces of Vishnu, I believe.
Wow, that's such. I wish I had. I'm sure I have it here somewhere.
But it's
such a good
truly
one.
amazing and captivated me from the first time I saw it. And the color in the back and everything and how it all tied in together in the 60s kind of color palette. I think I rocked every project at the circus with the 60s color palette and something to do with Jimi Hendrix because that's just where I was.
That's amazing. Yeah, that album cover, you can see it literally in your mind's eye. You shut your eyes and you're like, once you see it, you never unsee it.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's also how Alex Gray, the artist that does Tools albums, I have to put that out there. That's probably some of the best artwork ever put to music ever.
I don't even know that. That's great. I'll have to look them up. That's great. Okay, I just went to look for the Axis Bold as Love, and look what I found.
Oh,
not even joking. I had like
fierce.
How crazy is that? That's
so
crazy.
Fierce.
That's so weird. Anyway, but that wasn't the one I was planning on sharing. I was like looking for Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, his artwork was like, it just epitome, like it was the epitome of the time too. You know, like everything about it just was like stamp. You will remember this forever. This will be indelible in our society. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. That's really cool. Hey. All right, I'm gonna answer because I never get to, but this is like I'm not an artist, so I can say it. But no, I'm gonna say
about something that everybody has an opinion on.
David Bowie. What are we talking about, David Bowie? This stuff is insane. I don't know if you've ever had a chance, but if you guys haven't, you should like Google the history of his album covers. Is like you can go to this place in London. It's literally exists. I went there. It's amazing. This album cover art. You talk about the Rolling Stones. They used the same guy, only David Bowie somehow got, I think, either before him or after him. So like, I think the Rolling Stones and David Bowie were like a little irritated with each other because of it. That was kind of funny. Yeah. But this thing rivaled Barbra Streisand for the amount of time I stared at it when I was a little girl. Like that's literally, this album it's like androgyny, the most beautiful face I've ever seen. And then Twiggy was a supermodel at the time. And this, I mean, I don't even know, like it's his handwriting on the back. Like it's amazing. Bowie albums have like the Rolling Stones and like Jimi Hendrix, they just tell so many stories, which is why we love them so much.
And they're still selling copies today.
And they are. I know, it's amazing. Listen, you guys, thank you so much for joining us on this. I really appreciate it. And Ruby, you know, we should do a post about all your posters at some point, the posters are also an extension of all of this. So, I mean,
yeah, maybe I'll just post one a day on social.
Such a good idea. It's just nostalgic too, especially since we can't go to the shows now. Why not torture us more?
Yeah, memory lane. But we couldn't thank you enough, Mila. You are amazing.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Get a chance to enjoy Nashville. And Kristin, I love you so much. Thanks for holding me in LA.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you guys. Thank you so much. Everybody who's watching, thank you for staying tuned. We really appreciate you. If you liked it, hopefully give it a little love. Please, please, please listen to music. Grab the vinyl. We're about to do 4th record store day this year, next week on Friday, Black Friday. They're also doing another record store day.
4th one? I didn't even know.
Yeah, I just found out too. I was like, what? But we were going to do some cool Black Friday and Cyber Monday things. So please, please, please check all of our artist stuff. We'll be sending out a newsletter. If you aren't on our newsletter and you want to be, please go to juelconcepts.com and sign up because we're going to be sharing all of the stuff. Yeah. So, and again, stocking stuffers. Christmas is like right around the corner and nothing is better than the gift of music. Literally nothing.
Yeah.
So, and the music adjacent. Okay, we love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on UnCut Juels. We'll see you next week with Chris Pierce. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Stay masked up. Stay inside.
Play us out.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.